Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Vaccine trials are underway. Knife crime is rising sharply, and the UK government are trying their damnedest to borrow their way out of the problem that they've made. So vaccines are underway. Fantastic, isn't that nice? I bet Bill Gates is laughing. But wait, these are done by Oxford University. They're one of the 20, of course, that we mentioned a few days ago of how it has been progressing. Different corporations, different societies, different institutions have put their own effort into trying to make one that is successful. And it seems that Oxford is first. They say that they're about 80% sure, but now they're just very optimistic. And of course, what they've done is double-blind, being that you've got half receiving the COVID-19 vaccine and half a control vaccine which protects against meningitis, but not coronavirus. The idea being to then see what the side effects are first off, and then to test if it's effective. So it's of course got to be safe for humans first, and then it's okay. And of course there are only 2 people first, so who knows if you can extrapolate that, but it is out of 800 people so far. So with that in mind, then we're not sure what she's being injected with, but will we ever know? So they say the vaccine was developed in under 3 months by a team at Oxford University. It was supposed to take 18 months, so well done. Sarah Gilbert, Professor of Vaccinology at the General Institute, led the preclinical research. Personally, I have a high degree of confidence in this vaccine. She said 80%, but now just very optimistic. So how does the vaccine work? Very straightforward. As we know, that you take the outside of the virus, or the protein on the spike, if you will, in order to put it onto something else which is not a problem, not going to cause harm, and then you inject that so that the body isn't going to be damaged if it takes a while to respond. And in that time, of course, you then create the T cells that then fight off the virus, and then they're remembered as well in order to be more effective when the actual virus comes. And these last many years, hence sometimes you need top-ups every now and then after 10 years or so when you got your jabs as a child for the MMR jab, if you will. So the Oxford team has already developed a vaccine against MERS, another type of coronavirus, using the same approach, and that had promising results in clinical trials. So Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, so it should be all capitals, and coronavirus is of course SARS, Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. Not to be confused with the common cold, rhinovirus. But the similarities, well. So the only way the team will know if the COVID-19 vaccine works is by comparing the number of people who get infected with coronavirus in the months ahead from the 2 arms of the trial. That could be a problem if cases fall rapidly in the UK because there may not be enough data. Yep, so they are not saying that they're going to actually inject people, which is good, but seeing as we seem to be about 2 weeks after the peak, if you go by number of deaths, which of course lags behind the number of infections, then it seems to be fine. Of course, a study out of New York has recently said that as many as a third of the population of New York, somewhere between a fifth and a third, have already had the virus at some point, which means their 10,000 deaths now seems like nothing in comparison. So that's more good news. So it does seem as if there may not be enough data, which is fantastic, because then it means that we don't actually need the vaccine. So in other news, is it safe? Let's do a soft segue. Onto knife crime in England and Wales rises to record high, ONS figures show. What a surprise. Who would have guessed? Oh my god. Wow. What are the chances? Who knew that you've got a breakdown of society, you've got broken homes, you've got no community cohesion, and knife crime? Wow. The ONS said police recorded 45,000 offences in the year to December 2019, 7% more than 2018, and the highest since knife crime statistics were collected in 2010 to 2011. And the figures do not include Greater Manchester Police, because of IT issues. How convenient. Which showed a 13% rise in the West Midlands. That without the Great Manchester Police. Wow. And they're not going to be bringing that down. Downing Street acknowledged there was more to be done to crack down on thugs carrying knives and ensuring they are properly punished. Are we allowed to use the word thug now? Because that was supposed to be a racial slur a little while ago, wasn't it? But thugs is okay now. Okay. Thugs with nugs. And Diana Fawcett, chief executive of the charity Victim Support, stressed that while the UK streets were currently quieter due to coronavirus, victims of historic knife crime were still coming to terms with their experience. Well, of course. And of course, Diana Fawcett is hoping to just close the tap on their negative emotions. Close the faucet. Many victims will still be dealing with the emotional consequences of threats or attacks which took place long ago, she said. Robbery offences were also up for the fourth year running, with an annual increase of 12% to 84,000 offences. 670 cases of murder or manslaughter in 2019, excluding Greater Manchester Police, which is up 15 on the year before. So, not such a big change, but hey, it's all bad. The total includes 39 people whose bodies were found in a lorry in Grays, Essex in October. Yes, of course. They say these figures are a reminder that unlike the coronavirus outbreak, urban areas are facing an epidemic of a different sort. Knife crime, okay? Knife crime. The number of offences had increased by more than 20,000 in 5 years. London now accounting for a third of them. Ooh! And let me guess, minorities most affected. I mean, they are, so that's also true. And if you want to say that they're most affected with the coronavirus as well, when it's 34% despite 14% of the population, whatever. So yeah, but then if you look at where the most densely populated, where most of the cases are, like in London, where it probably is now about half British and half not. Almost as if when you don't have good guidance as a child and you just want to appear tough to your role models in order to appear tough to your peers in order to get a better role model, that you seem to turn to crime because that's a quick way to make a difference, even though it's negative. If only we could do something about that. If only there was an incentive that we could get rid of to stop women marrying the state. The charging rate has been in decline almost continuously since 2014-2015 when changes were made to the collection of the data. Funny that. Last year, 7.1% of crimes resulted in a suspect being charged or ordered to appear in court. The previous year was 8.2%, and in 2014-15 it was 15.5%. The percentage of crimes in which suspects were cautioned has also fallen to 1.3% from 4.6% in 2014-2015. The main reason for the decline appears to be an increase in the number of victims who are cooperating with police investigations and prosecutions. So less concern over snitches get stitches, but also the more use of mobile phones. I know Tim Pool's mentioned this before as well, that does help a great deal, not only to ward off potential attackers, but also for the victim in order to get help as soon as possible. So, last but not least, of course, debt. The Conservative government is borrowing because they've closed down the economy. So, of course, there are two things to look at there. One is that they've closed down the economy, in which case no money's being made, but the other is they've ploughed a hell of a lot in to the health services, including the Nightingale Hospital, which seems like we won't be needing, which is nice, because we can use it. It can be one of the 50 hospitals that Johnson wants to build, and you can say, cool, so all the people who kind of got signed away on those death panels there, and got pushed back for the elective surgeries because we were more concerned with the coronavirus, now you can actually get back in the queue where you were, and there'll be more spaces, which is great news. So there is a positive. But of course, by stopping people from making money and then spending even more money, you've been hit twice. So of course, you'll have most countries badly affected, except for Sweden. I wonder what they did differently. And therefore, if everybody is in the same boat, of course, it isn't so bad overall. The plan, although they don't mention it here, is to try and get some retributive action to China in order to get them to reimburse for the damage caused one way or another. If it is a reparation, or if it is forgiving debt, or if it is free stuff, even though their stuff is faulty, then whatever it might be, that is the idea in order to try and clean up the mess. The problem, of course, with putting them over the edge is, as a nuclear-capable power, one that seems intent on taking over Taiwan very, very soon, then they probably won't take to it too kindly, seeing as Xi Jinping is now the president. He's the president turned dictator because he has removed term limits. And he said, well, yes, now I'm president for life, and what I say goes. So he's indeed a dictator. As soon as you can oust him and good luck with the party not wanting to look as if they're one that's planning a coup, then maybe things can get back to normality, at least in some semblance. But that would be before the Great Leap backwards. So, the UK's deficit last year, the gap between the government's income and its expenditure, was 9.3 billion higher than the 2018-2019 financial year and equivalent to 2.2% of GDP. On top of this, the ONS, which released those figures, said they did not capture the big spending announced by the government to cope with the virus. Yep. So the deficit was already 9.3 billion higher, and they're going, yeah, let's put another 135 billion on there. So, that's great. That's fantastic. Please stop. Just let us get on with our lives. So they're saying tax rises, and what gets me is that it seems like nobody's heard of the Laffer curve. So okay, so if you tax people more, then they're going to leave. And the comments to this article are great, saying, hey, we should stop allowing people to move away with their money, go to tax havens. That should be terrible. It's like, well, not all countries get on with each other, so of course you're going to have an enemy. And if the country was good enough for the person to want to stay there and the taxes were fine, then they wouldn't be leaving and you wouldn't be getting that problem. So dropping the taxes, you then generate more of a revenue because you're not losing it all anymore. And also, people are no longer wanting to avoid earning more in order to get into that threshold. And that is why, of course, with over the lobbying, that the tax system is so long in order to get different loopholes. One fun one for rich people, because they don't care so much about income tax. They care more about capital gains. So over the course of a year, if you sell and you gain a profit, then of course you're taxed on your profit. However, if you have another one which you're hoping to hold for a long time, and it's dipped a bit, you can sell that one, write off the difference for tax purposes, so you decrease it down so you pay less tax, and then buy it back a week later when the year goes over, and the stock will be slower moving, hasn't really had much of an impact, and you've just saved a load of that tax. Whereas most people who are just changing their time for money, their income, they're the ones that are screwed over. So the UK public sector net debt, as we see, going up and up and up and up and up under a Conservative government. Funny that. And they follow on to say the government had announced tax cuts and spending increases worth £100 billion, so the effect was likely to dwarf the record that we saw during the financial crisis. Yep, same thing with unemployment. So let's allow people to get back to work and even make more jobs. Wouldn't that be nice? So, with all that in mind, let's hope we can get back to life. We can actually reduce the amount of people coming in, just like Trump has done, in order to enable more jobs to be available for people who aren't entrepreneurs and don't have the capacity or desire to start their own business, that they can then work for somebody else. Hopefully out of the ashes of this, the phoenix can rise of new businesses that learn from the other mistakes and have a new take on things, which gives them an opportunity that they wouldn't have otherwise. And that is what can help give people meaning in their lives, and that is what can hopefully reduce this knife crime down and end broken homes. All we need is meaning in life. How are we going to get that? Well, hey, a job is definitely one step closer. So until next time, have a good one.